Good afternoon, good morning, or good evening, whenever you're watching this. I am so honored to be sponsored by Mindsight. We had a technological issue of connecting, and so we're going to record this so that you can see it at your leisure. And if you have questions, put them in chat, and Amanda will send them to me by email, and I'll send them back to her. And you can get copies of the slides. So I'm going to try to connect with you in a way that's meaningful to you as well as to me, to give you ideas that I hope are helpful. First, let me welcome you to my office. This is where I live. This is my home. I wish I could sit with each of you by your home or where you live and talk with you. These are the people in my office and the ideas. But today my job is to spend time, if I imagined sitting with each one of you and asking you the question, as I were sitting with each of you, how can I or how can my organization create stakeholder value through human capability? I know as you've been part of this conference with Mindsight, you've heard some great ideas on change and culture from Carrefour. You've heard great ideas from the bank about employee engagement. You've heard great ideas about analytics and turnover and analytics for acquisition. I'm going to try to summarize some of those ideas around the idea of value created. And let me describe what I mean by value created. Here's a picture in the back of my wife. My wife and I have been married for a long time, probably married older than some of you. I'm trying to find a very nice picture of my wife that I could show that she would not be embarrassed with. My wife, and I love to give my wife gifts. And when I give my wife a gift, she defines the value of the gift. And so the value of what we're doing today is not what I know, but what you get because of what I know. So this is fun. I'm being more personal than I would because I don't get to interact with you. This is a picture of my wife and four of our grandchildren. She writes books. My gift to her is something I hope that she values. Well, our gift in HR, wherever we work, at the top of the company, at the bottom, is that we create value for somebody else. And so my job today is when I walk away from this video and you walk away from watching, you can help somebody else get better. That's the goal of this video. To do it, I'm going to give you some ideas that will have impact. Again, you can get copies of the slides. I want to start by saying this is an important time in the HR field. In Brazil, in Argentina, in the United States, in Europe, in Asia. And there's three simple messages that I hope you get that will help you create value. One, HR is not about HR, but creating value for someone else. That's my message. Two, the value we create is through what we're going to call human capability. And number three, we need to upgrade ourselves. That's what this program with Mindsight is about, is each of you getting better so that you can create value. So let's start with number one. Now is the time. In almost every conference with business leaders, not just HR leaders, either in Brazil, Mexico City, Toronto, Canada, Davos, Switzerland, anywhere in the world, this is what people are talking about. Number one, economic uncertainty, technology, people. Two, all the topics of our business executives are around agility, culture, mental health. Government is now worried about requirements to disclose human capital. Number four, boards of directors are talking about people. Five, intangible value. You can look through that. Here's the message. A number of years ago, and I just happened to have the magazine with me, in 2005, this article was written, Why I Hate HR. I've got to show it. This is so fun. This is the article, Why We Hate HR. And the article was about people not liking HR. Let me show you, and I haven't ever done this. I found this about 2 months ago. The article is about why we hate HR, and it has all the reasons people don't like HR. And then what's really fun is the next article in the magazine is about me. And so 15 years ago, they did a picture of me with some others as we were doing work for a church. Well, guess what? 18 years later, in 2023, Fast Company is talking about HR is the most important place to be. So if you're listening to this tape and you're not in HR, you should join us because HR is a great profession. And let me try to describe why. Our field has evolved. And again, I think this article, Why I Hate HR, is so fascinating. Here's the evolution. And wherever you are in your company in Brazil, a big company, a small company, private, public, at the top, at the bottom, in gray, we did personnel, and we still do it. Terms and conditions of work. We do the day-to-day operational excellence of HR. In blue, we build on that and deliver HR practices. We do functional excellence. We do talent, compensation, training. In red, we build on that. We have the gray of terms and conditions, the blue, and now the red. We align those practices with strategy. And now in the blue column, we're moving. This is the future. Number one, at the top of that blue, we create value for outsiders. Number two, we don't just deliver great talent. Carrefour talked about culture, leadership, and the analytics that we do that you've had in the session are really talking about analytics that define value. So look at that yellow column. The world is changing. In Fast Company in 23, we'll see more in 24. All of the topics that business leaders are focused on are creating value. And we need to move to that right column. So here's my first message. As each of you sit as an HR professional, no matter where you sit, a functional expert, a generalist, do you recognize that we have the opportunity to create more value today than we've probably ever created? That our job is to build value, to reinvent HR. That's what I love about Mindsight, the work that they do, the conferences they hold, the analytics that is presented is about helping us create value. That's the Mensa. I'm here in HR not to do HR work, but to create value. 3 takeaways to make that happen. Number one, HR is not about HR, but creating value for someone else. So if I were able to do a test, and I'm sorry we're not live, so we can't do it, it's being taped, but if Luis or Felipe were here, we'd do a test. And I'll just tell you what we find. What's the most important thing HR, you, or your business leader can give an employee? Number one, a feeling of psychological or physical safety. Number two, a sense of belief, meaning, purpose. Number three, an ability to become better, to learn and to grow. Number four, a feeling of belonging. Number five, all the above. Or number six, none of the above. Now, I've done that exercise for the last year with all kinds of audiences around the world. We've been in China, we've been in the UK, we've been in Asia, we've been in the Mideast, we've been in Latin America. Here's the answer we always get. 5, all the above. And if I had this live, I'd have you vote by chat, and we get 5. I want to do all the above. And it's wrong. I want to change the way you think about HR today. The correct answer to that question is number 6, none of the above. What's the most important thing we in HR can give an employee? Number 6, none of the above. We want to give an employee an organization that succeeds in the marketplace. Let me say that again. Carrefour is working on culture and change as they presented at this session. Neon, and I've said that badly, I think Neon, the bank, is working on engagement so that their organization succeeds in the marketplace. Our job in HR is not to do just HR, but to help the marketplace be successful. Why is that so important? Because today, when HR goes into a meeting with a business leader, we often start with our HR program. We need to start with the marketplace success. Let me give some examples and talk about what that might mean. We've all seen this slogan, our people are our most important asset. I'd like to change it. Our people are our customers' most important asset. If our people don't serve our customers well, they're not doing their job very well. And our job in HR is to manage our people, that's culture, change, engagement, analytics, so that customers succeed. I teach at the University of Michigan, and we're just finishing a 2-week course. When we teach that course, we love to start with a question. And if I was with you for a day yesterday, I would have started this 2-day session with the question, what's the biggest challenge in your job today? And here's the answers we often get. Using AI to be more efficient. That's the first wave. Doing a better job in staffing or training or compensation. Changing leadership, changing culture, engaging employees, analytics. We're looking at a set of activities. I believe the most important challenge in your job today is in the yellow box at the top. To build value with our customers and investors outside the company. So here's what we do. At the university, we have people put on a flip chart. What do you want to learn in this 2-week program? I want to learn about culture. I want to learn about engagement. I want to learn about analytics. So that I want to learn about culture at Carrefour so that we can build the culture our customers like most. That's outside in. I want to learn about building better leaders so that our investors will see us better. Whatever you think in your mind is the challenge of your job today, put behind it so that to move outside the company. When we look at HR creating value, there's a line. Below the line are people inside the company. I in HR serve the employees, no question. We as HR professionals work with our people in HR. We work together. We serve our senior executives. We help them build strategy and goals. But look above the line. Am I doing HR work that creates value for a customer? Fascinating question. Let me give an example. If I were to do a role play, wherever you are in a company, imagine that you go to somebody in sales and you say, I know I'm in HR. I want to go with Louisa. She's a great salesperson. Louisa, may I visit a customer with you? And Louisa says, why? And I say, because I want to help be successful as a company. So we go. Louisa, the great salesperson, sells the customer a product or a service. And then the customer looks at me and says, Dave, who are you? And I say, I'm from HR and I want to help build this relationship. And the customer says, why? And this is what I say. We in HR can and should be with customers. I look at the customer and I say, thank you. You have a great salesperson called Louisa. She has just sold you our product and our service, and it's terrific. I now know what you, the customer, want. This is why you're buying from us. The kind of skills, the kind of opportunity. In HR, I manage staffing, training, compensation, communication, diversity, employee engagement. I'm now going to go back and look at every one of our HR programs and find out, are they giving you what you need? Louisa sold you a product or a service. I want to build with you a relationship. And here's the power of the relationship. Right now, we have 40% of what you buy in our area of expertise. If I'm a cement company, we have 40% of your cement. I want 60 to 70% because I'm going to build talent, leadership, organization that meet your needs. We create long-term relationships with customers. We do it with investors. The investor could be stock if we own equity. It could be debt if we borrow money. It could be a parent company. We build community reputation. Everything we do in HR can be filtered through the outside world. So let me take a breath. Again, if you have a question, put it in chat. And Amanda is going to send them to me, and I'll find a way to respond, and you can go back, and we're going to get a dialogue that lasts over time. Headline, the first row. Do each of us, as we leave this Mindsight program, have in our minds the contextual challenges making HR more important? Number one, HR is not about HR. It's about creating value for someone else. And my job is to understand how HR creates value for those other stakeholders, not just the employee, not just the senior business leaders, but my customers, my communities, and my investors. HR in the community space often helps co-sponsor community events. We do philanthropy in the community. We do service so that our community has a better image of our company. Now is the time to reinvent HR. Number one, HR is not about HR, but creating value. Number two, what do we bring that creates value? What is it we do? I listed here some of the initiatives. I wasn't able to sit through the 2-day Mindsight program, but you talked about many of these. You talked about culture, which is on that list. We can change culture. You talked about change. You talked about engagement. You talked about turnover. You talked about analytics. These are the tools of the HR field today. These are our initiatives. But here's what happens. When I go into a meeting as an HR professional with a business leader, and I say, today we're going to talk about hybrid work. Then we're going to talk about acquisition of talent. Then we're going to talk about reskilling of the workforce. Then we're going to talk about employee well-being. Then we're going to talk about HR transformation. My business leaders begin to daze over. And Michelle, I hope this translates well. They begin to get tired of all of the latest ideas. I know iFood works with restaurants. Can you imagine a restaurant that has a menu, but they're not organized? There's a famous restaurant in the United States, and there are in Brazil, wherever you are, in Rio or whatever city you're in. Imagine going into a restaurant with no order to the menu. In the United States, there's a restaurant. I've lost it. It has 250 menu items. What would happen if you went into a restaurant with 250 menu items with no structure? Here's a salad, a dessert, a drink, a coffee, and they're just randomly organized. You get lost. What we need in our field is what's called taxonomy. That's not a common word, it's classification. A menu in a restaurant says, here's some salads, here's some soups, here's some main courses, here's some cheesecakes. It was the Cheesecake Factory I was talking about. Here's desserts, here's coffee. The menu makes what's complex simple. Same with a library. Can you imagine going into a library where there's no order to the books, or a bookstore? Where I've lived for many years in the United States, in Ann Arbor, is a used bookstore, and there's no structure to the books. A novel, a biography, a fiction, a nonfiction. I get lost. Selecting a car. There's a logic to the car. What kind of car do you want? Making investments, enrolling in classes. Classification takes all of these ideas that we could do in HR, changing the culture that you talked about, training our people, customer focus, reskilling, and it organizes them into a system. Every field has a taxonomy. Biology, living organisms, domains, kingdoms, classes, information systems. There's types of components. You have hardware, software, databases. You have types of information, transaction, decision support. Sociology, you stratify by group, economic group, social class. Psychology, big 5 personality disorders. Political science, types of politics. Just an aside, I was advised to not talk to a Brazil audience about their political system. So I'm not going to talk about politics in Brazil. By the way, that was a joke, just to make it light. HR does not have a topology until today. I believe that today, most of the initiatives are piecemeal and haphazard. You come to this course, you hear change, you hear engagement, you hear hybrid work. Now what you hear are 4 areas we in HR can improve and make a difference. In red is talent. In red is talent. Anything related to people, human capital. What can my company do to ensure the right individual, their competence, their ability, their workforce, and their skills. We in HR come to a business meeting and say, do we have the right talent? You heard from Neon, the bank. How well do we engage our people? How well do we manage talent acquisition analytics? How well do we manage performance? Talent is in red. In blue, my fist is organization. We have good people. We also need great organization. Organization is when the people, my fingers, come together as a team. Do we have the right organization, capability, the workplace, the team? Talent matters. Teamwork matters even more. Now, I probably should not share this story because it got me in trouble in Brazil. I know there are many people in Brazil who remember the World Cup when it was held in Brazil. The semifinal game when Brazil played Germany. And at this point, I know many of you are already angry with me for raising it. But if you remember that game, in about 4 minutes or 5 minutes, Germany scored 4 goals. It was incredible. They had good talent, but they played great as a team. And the teamwork that Germany had that day was amazing. I happened to be doing a talk in Brazil soon after that game. And in front of 600 people in Brazil, I showed a video that talent and teamwork matter, but teamwork in that semifinal game was so critical that Germany had it and Brazil didn't. And the people in Brazil started to boo me because they didn't like that I raised that issue. But let's learn from it. When I in HR walk into a meeting, here's what I say. Do we have the right people? Do we have the right talent? Do we have the right organization? I see a hand raised. Should I stop and respond to the hand? I don't know if that was a hand. I'm going to keep going unless Amanda interrupts. Do we have the right talent? Do we have the right organization? Third, that may be a comment somebody is making in chat. And do we have the right leadership? Leadership combines talent and organization. As an HR professional, at any level in the company, I want to create value for customers, investors, communities, employees. Do I have the right talent? Do I have the right organization? And do I have the right leadership? Those 3 questions become absolutely critical. Those 3 questions drive what this program's about. Mindsight is having the foresight to deliver talent, organization, and leadership. And then in purple in my chart is human resources. Human resources represents us. That's the function. Do we have the right HR department, the practices, the people to deliver talent, organization, and leadership? And when we can combine those, we have success. That's my message. My message is what was confusing. Look at all those things we could do: diversity, agile, culture, collaboration. Suddenly now, through the logic of taxonomy, in red, we could deliver people. Bottom right, employee well-being, retaining people, diversity, primacy, reskilling. In blue, my fist, an agile organization, hybrid technology that you've heard about at this conference, collaboration, culture. In green, leadership. And in purple, HR. So my message is, when I walk into a meeting, what are we going to deliver about talent, organization, leadership, and HR so that we create value for stakeholders both inside and outside the company? That's the agenda. That's the new HR. And there's all kinds of details. I'm going to go through each of those 4 for 5 or 6 minutes and tell you what we're seeing globally in talent, red, organization, blue, leadership in brown, and HR in the middle. But here's what I hope you've got so far. My job, if I'm going to do a great job in analytics, I want a benchmark. How am I doing in my hiring? How long to hire? How am I doing in my training? I want a best practice. I want to see the companies that are presented, Neon, iFood, and I'm going to say the cement company wrong, Voder Antonin, the cement company. I want to see what they're good at. I want to intervene. I want to see why they're good. But let me tell you where I hope each of you are going as you listen. I want to have impact in my company. And for me, the field of analytics is moving, not just benchmarking what's been done, not just what's a good way to do it, not just how it works. What can my company do in talent, organization, and leadership? Let me tell you why I think that matters so much. I have a friend, he loves fitness through exercise. And he says, Dave, this is what you should do to exercise. In fact, I've just started seeing a trainer and he's saying, Dave, here's what you should do to exercise. Here's a benchmark. I look at my friend and I say, that's a best practice for you. For him to get fit, he runs. He runs 10K almost every day. That's his best practice. It's not mine. I'm not very good at running. I have some leg problems. I can't run. So I shouldn't go try to do what he does. I should find what works for me. And in the next half hour in this tape, I want to give you ideas that might work for you. And I'm going to do that and show you why it matters. Let me just share some research. You can get it. We posted it on LinkedIn. 2 years ago in the United States, the Securities Exchange Commission, a government agency, required that companies, there were 7,000, we ended up looking at 5,700, on the top left, report what's called human capital. How are they managing their people? We took a machine learning model that you talked about. I saw the natural language model. We looked at talent, organization, leadership. We looked at these 4 categories, talent in red, organization in blue, leadership and HR, and we scored every company along those 4 pathways. How much did they disclose and do? We had a machine learning model, we tracked it, and then look at the scores. We were able to predict 45% of revenue per employee, 25% of Tobin's Q, which is future success, 26% of EBITDA cash flow, and 36 and 48% of citizenship. Companies that invest and disclose human capability drive business results. So I'm now going to give you some tips in each of those. Take a deep breath again. If I'm sitting here listening, let me tell you what I hope I'm hearing. Broad headline: organization, people matters. We used to say in HR, get to the table, get to the table, get to the meeting. The people issues are at the table. They're at the meeting. Our executives, our board of directors, our investors, our customers, they care about the people issues today. We don't have to be invited in. We're there. When I'm at the meeting, do not just simply say, here's the latest, greatest idea in AI that somebody else has done. Don't just say, here's the engagement that a bank did. Say, there are 4 things that we can invest in to help our company succeed in the marketplace. In red, we can build better talent. In blue, we can build better organization. In orange, in the middle, we can build better leadership. And in purple, we can build a great HR function. When you start with that agenda, you move the organization beyond looking at an HR initiative or an HR program. You move the organization to creating value for the customer, for the investor, for the community, for the executives. And that's where the successful future HR comes from. So I'll now share with you some research. In those 4 areas, there's 38 initiatives we could focus on. I wish I was able to stop and take questions. If you haven't, put them in chat. Amanda will get those to me. We'll have a dialogue going forward, or check in with me in LinkedIn, and we'll be able to see the kinds of things that might be the most helpful for you. I see a question in chat. Actually, I can read chat. That's cool. I can read it. So let me take a question. What are the first steps HR should do to begin this journey? I've said it. Let me say it again. When you and HR go to a business meeting, our temptation is to start and talk about, here's the HR program I want to focus on. I want to focus on, and let's go to one of these 38 initiatives. I want to focus on talent 5, communication. I want to focus on talent 3, red 3, training. I want to focus on talent acquisition. On blue 4, I want to focus on customer centricity. Do not start there. When you walk into a meeting with a business leader, your first question is, who are we creating value for? The customer, the investor, the community? What is it we're doing to help them be successful? And then look at the HR practice and how it will help make that happen. I've said it now 4 times. I'll say it again and again and again. HR is not about HR. It's creating value for stakeholders. And that example of going with Louisa, the salesperson, with a customer, I look at the customer and I say, you're not just buying a product or a service, you're forming a relationship with us, because I'm going to build the talent, leadership, and organization practices that get you to become a partner with us. I hope that gets clear. This is a big shift in HR. It's not just strategic HR, it's outside in. Strategic HR is when you say, here's the strategy of my company. What should I do? And a strategy is like a mirror. And in the mirror, I see my actions. Now, instead of a mirror, the strategy is a window. And through the window, I look at my customer and investor, and I see what I can do that will help them. It's fun. I am seeing some chat questions. So you're seeing this as live as we can get. Let me just see. How to get internal customers to get a better view. That is such a great question. When our internal customers see how their work creates value for the external customer, we go to market together. If you're in manufacturing, let me give an example. We are working with a company that built airline engines. A military airline jet had a problem. The engine went bad. Terrible crisis. The pilot, you can imagine his fear as he lands that jet miraculously. So what did they do? The HR people brought that pilot in to meet with every group of the internal employees, manufacturing, supply chain. And the pilot said to those employees, your engine went bad. I almost lost my life. Please pay attention to me. At a second example, a company called Medtronic. They're a healthcare company that does stents and devices for healthcare. Every meeting with more than 20 to 30 employees has a customer start the meeting. Finance, manufacturing, supply chain. A customer comes in and says, here's what I need from you. And our job in HR is to help our internal customers get focused outside. If we don't succeed in the marketplace, there is no workplace. And that internal marketplace success linked to the outside is where HR's future is. How can we do this with the low budget? I'm getting some great questions. This is so good. There's always more to do than we can do. There's always more to do. Look at the chart that's up there. You got 38 initiatives. Oh my gosh, what do I do? Here's the answer. Which of those 38 initiatives will create the most value for your customer? The issue is not your budget. The issue is, where do you spend your budget? And it's not trying to benchmark somebody else. It's using analytics to say, of these 38 things I could invest in, let's look at talent. I could acquire talent, number one. I could manage performance. Let me tell you an example. This is not Carrefour, but it's example of Carrefour. A retail company in the United States did a study. This is analytics at its best. The average basket size, and I'm going to use US dollars, was $40. People put $40 in their basket. In the stores where they had a higher talent issue, employee engagement, employee experience, the things we love to talk about, the basket size was 50. 25% more. That's pretty cool. This company had 1,000 stores in the United States, $100 billion. The head of HR used analytics and went to the business team and said, we think we can improve basket size from 40 to 50 if we improve employee morale, engagement, and commitment. We can make that better. And here's the evidence. In stores with better engagement and employee, we're getting 50 in a basket. In other stores, we're getting 40. That 25%, if we're 100 billion, represents 25 billion in revenue. The executives didn't believe all of that, but they believed at least half of it. And so they said to the head of HR, we're going to give you $1 billion to invest. Woo! That's a lot of money. So then comes the question that Louisa asked. Where should we invest it? They looked at talent, they looked at organization and leadership, and they began to say, where do we invest this scarce resource? And here's the answer. Which investment would get more basket size, would lead to our customers getting more in their basket that makes it worthwhile? They chose leadership, frontline leadership. They said, if we can make frontline leadership better, we think we can be more successful. Okay. Great question. The issue is not just budget, it's where should we spend a budget to get success? I'm going to keep going, and I'll check in with Chad again in just a minute. I feel bad because Luis and Felipe are going to be out of a job because I'm doing their job for them. How do we manage talent? We've done books. There's 3 things we want in talent. We want our employees to be competent. Can they do the job today and tomorrow? We want them to be committed in green. Will they work hard? And we want them to feel meaning and purpose in blue. So what we've identified, if I'm leaving this conference and others from Mindsight, there's 10 initiatives in talent that I could focus on. Under competence, number 1, I could acquire new people. I could go bring new people in. B, I can do performance, compensation, appraisal. 3, I can train people. 4, manage careers, succession. 5, communicate. 6, diversity. C, 7, I can retain people. 8, I can move people. In green, I can improve engagement. You've seen some work on that with the bank. I can give you a better employee experience. Our job in HR is to say which of those 10 initiatives will drive the outcomes the most. We have research. Our research says number 1 and 10 have the biggest impact on customers. Have we acquired the right people? Number 1. And number 10, have we given employees a positive experience? Your company may be different than the general research, but in talent, let me say it again. I'm going to go back here in red in talent. There's 10 things we can do around competence, commitment, and contribution. Our job is to say, of those 10, where should we focus to get the most impact? Leadership. What should we do in leadership? How do we build leaders? Leaders represent the talent and they represent the organization. We've done a lot of work on leadership. We've written books. I don't want to bore you with books. We've discovered there's 5 characteristics of a good leader. Now, I'm not going to be able to do this in person, but I'm going to ask you to do it on your own because I'm going to make a point and I'm going to take 30 seconds. If you were to find these numbers in a row, and you're going to have to look close if you have a phone, not a laptop. Start now, and I'll talk while you're doing it. How many of these numbers can you find? 1 is at the top left, then 2. Can you find 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10? Keep looking. You've got about 15 or 20 more seconds. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You know, it's pretty hard to do. Why? It's complicated because they're big, they're small, they're different fonts, they're different sizes. I hope you've looked at that and said, wow, I'm a little confused. I'm going to take away your confusion. I put 4 lines in the grid. Look across the top. 1 at the top left, 2 in the top middle, 3 at the top right. 4, middle left, 5 in the middle, 6 at the middle right. Bottom left, 7, bottom middle, 8, bottom right, 9, and then 10, 11, 12 at the top again. Here's what we've learned. Leadership, the piece that integrates, requires 5 things. Strategy. Do my leaders create confidence in the future with a compelling vision? If I'm in HR, I want my leaders to create that vision. This is a bad vision. I was going to say this is in Brazil, but it's not. It's in London. This is not a good vision because it's every which way. It's actually a statue, not a stoplight. Number 2, leaders execute. They get things done. They deliver. They promise. They deliver. They make things happen. This is a very good example of leaders getting things done. The dog, the cat, the child, they come together to get the beer. They know how to collaborate. On the left, number 3, leaders manage people today. They have empathy, emotion, energy, experience. You've talked about it. This is an example of bad employees. These are contractors. They've installed steel pillars to stop the vehicles from parking on the pavement outside of a sports bar. It's the end of the day. They're cleaning up. They want to get in their truck and go home. Notice they're going to have trouble getting home because they haven't done a great job putting the truck outside the bars. This is human capital at the top left. Are we as leaders empowering the next generation, making sure they feel better about themselves with a typing mistake? I love this picture of what we need to provide leadership. The hands represent the customer. The child is the leader, holding up the child or the dogs in finance, HR, marketing, and the dog standing is the consultant, probably from Mindsight, giving great advice, and that's a joke on Mindsight, giving great advice, making it work. Our job as leaders is to help people feel better. And then in the middle, personal proficiency. Am I and are the leaders in my company taking care of themselves? Those are the 5 elements of leadership. And these are examples. I was tempted to put a Brazil example. I didn't. Top right is in my office, Dr. King. Bottom right, the Pope, obviously Mandela, Mother Teresa, Gandhi. And top left, this is being taped during Ramadan, Sheikh Zayed. Each of these great leaders. You can go back and look. As my company building leadership, this is a company that had 9 leadership characteristics, the rows. Notice most of them are about personal proficiency. This company had 5 rows with 15 leadership behaviors. Most of them are about execution. I've just told you 5 things leaders need to have. I'm going to stop for a minute. We're trying to give you specific skills that you need. I'm going to look at chat again. Dave, is there a cultural aspect? Yes, that may affect this work. I think you mean by culture global stakeholders. And I love when you type stakeholders, you typed it STEAK, which I like because I love to eat steak. And if HR are more or less the same. You know, my friend who typed this, Anna, what we found is when you compete in a global market, and if you're in a company in Brazil, and global means anybody outside of Brazil, that could be Chile, Argentina, Venezuela, you've got to compete on global standards. And so the global requirement becomes real. There are obviously requirements inside Brazil, if that's my served market. But in general, these conversations can apply for any global stakeholder. Thank you for the question. Great question. Using the concept of culture, let me go to organization in blue. When we think about an organization, we often think about culture. One of the cool comments about culture from Peter Drucker is that culture eats strategy for breakfast. It's actually, he never actually said that. So if you have a great quote, tell the world that Peter Drucker said the quote, then everybody will quote it. Culture matters. Culture is the fist. It's the integration of talent. Let me tell you what we're learning about culture. We're learning that culture is not just your values and behaviors. That's the beginning wave. It's not just your systems. It's not just your patterns. At the top right, we want to create the right culture, an identity, a brand, a reputation outside in. Remember, the focus is on customers. Can we create a culture where our values create value for the customers? So when I meet with business leaders, I had a meeting with 1,500 business leaders a few months ago. They said, here comes Dave Ulrich to talk. It was a finance day strategy. He's going to talk about culture. We'll be happy and we'll chant. No. When you go to your customer with your values, number one, are these the values you want us to be known for? Back to that example with Louisa. What is it you, the customer, want from us? Two, how do we show you that we're living those values? And three, when we do that, will you buy more from us? The logic of culture is not inside out, but outside in. A company has a mission or a purpose. On the left-hand side, culture is the roots of the tree. On the right-hand side, it's the brand or identity. Now, let me illustrate that. I hadn't planned to do this, but since I'm talking a lot, I need to just break it up a little bit. I'm going to show pictures, so get ready. This is a picture of my mother who recently passed, our son, my mother's son, that's me, our son, and our grandson. When our son finished his PhD, we said, what would you like as a gift? And he said, I want to go to Disney. Guess what? His sister said, I want to go to Disney. And her sister, I wanted to go to Disney. So lo and behold, a few years ago, 15 of us showed up at Disney. 16 of us showed up at Disney. There we are. And they didn't want to just stay in a hotel, but on property, and to spend 3 days at Disney seeing. And here we are again at Disney. Mickey Mouse coming out, meeting us, having an incredible experience. Everybody was happy but me. 3 days at Disney in a hotel with 16 people meant that year I would not buy a new car. It is really expensive. So I am grouchy. I am grumpy. I'm one of the 7 dwarves. And the woman who took this picture actually when we started, and it's hot and I sweat a lot, she said, this is the happiest place on earth. And I said, no, it's not. It's not for me because it's costing me so much money. She said, relax. A day and a half later, we walked in and out walked Cinderella. So here's a picture, our grandkids with Cinderella. Here's another picture, a princess hugged our granddaughter. Here's another great picture. And our grandchildren looked at her and they looked up at me and said, Grandpa, she's real. And she's so beautiful. Look how beautiful she is. Grandpa, she's real. She's so beautiful. Grandpa, we love you. Now, anyone who's a parent is going, oh, that's so sweet. That's not sweet at all. It's terrible. Why? Because we had to go back to Disney and do a cruise. Another car. And then a couple of years ago, we went to Disney and we did it again. We went to Disney with mask on. In 3 months, we're doing another Disney trip. Disney has done a brilliant job with culture. That's all the pictures I'll show. They have a purpose, the happiest place on earth. They have values, but their brand in the marketplace is to create a great experience for our grandchildren so that we take them there. HR, go get to know your organization. So let me stop. I'm going to say it again and again and again, very specifically what it means. Number one, or at the top, the world requires HR to create value today, more than we've ever seen it before. Number one, think about HR from the outside in. What's the benefit to customers and investors when you go sit down with a business leader or a customer or an investor or even in your HR team? Who gets value from what we do? Number two, there's 3 things we do to create value: talent, my fingers; organization, my fist; and leadership, the combination. I want to walk into a meeting and say, do we have the right people, the right organization, and the right leadership to build value for our customer? And finally, number 3, I'll do it pretty quickly. How do we make sure our HR department is superb? How do we get a great HR department? This is the purple. We've got talent, leadership, and organization. We have 10 dimensions of a great HR department. We've studied it. We've done research. We've worked with leading firms around the world. We've discovered 10 dimensions. Number 1, your HR department should have a great reputation. What are we known for? Are we known for efficiency? Of course. Can we do analytics? Of course. But we're known for creating value for customers. Number 2, our customers are both inside and outside the company. Number 3, we have a purpose in HR. Our mission, who we are, what we do. Number 4, in orange, we have a great HR design. Number 5, we build human capability, talent, organization, leadership. Number 6, we have great analytics, not just about benchmarking, but about impact. Number 7, we use Gen AI. You've heard sessions. Number 8, we have great HR practices. Number 9, we have great HR people. And number 10, we have great relationships. Here's our research. Lots of people try to redesign the HR function. Number 4, here's what matters more. Number 1, when you go out of this session, work hard to build the reputation of your HR department by thinking about HR not in terms of efficiency, but in terms of value created for the customer. Number 10 in green, build relationships. Work great with each other. Know how to work together. And number 9, when you leave this session with Mindsight, make sure in blue you have the skills. We've done research. We just finished a major study with 28,000 people around the world, including Brazil. Traditionally, HR skill sets were around competencies as roles, business partner, change agent. We now talk about 5 verbs. Can you leave this session being able to accelerate business results? Accelerate. Can you advance human capability, talent, organization, leadership? Can you mobilize information? That's Gen AI. Can you foster collaboration? And can you simplify complexity? Those verbs and the detail behind them tells me where I should focus to make HR happen. What's interesting about that? We've done research over 35 years with people in Brazil and elsewhere. The skills from 1987 through 2021 were improving. All of those lines were moving up to the right until COVID. Now the perceived skill set of HR has dropped just a little. Why? Because more is expected of us than we've ever seen. More is expected of us than we've ever seen. We need to make a difference. We need to make a difference. We need to make a difference. And our job, and I've seen some of the questions in there, Umberto was a great question, is to help managers say, I want to help you with talent, organization, leadership so that you and I can create value for a customer. Those numbers dropped for me because the expectations went up. There's more complaints in a fine diner than a cheap restaurant. We expect better service. HR is now expected to do more. Oh, take a breath. Take a breath. That's a one-page summary. If you're taking snapshots, that's the snapshot. That covers everything in the middle, creating value outside in through human capability, top left through talent in red, top right through leadership in green, bottom right through organization in blue, bottom left in purple. But here's what it means, really simple. I started with a simple question. How can I, or how can my organization create stakeholder value? Reinvent HR by changing the way I think. The world is now ready for HR. Number 1, get in my head, HR is not about HR, but creating value for others. How does HR create value for all stakeholders? Number 2, HR contributes value through human capability, talent, leadership, organization. That's the organization framework. And number 3, upgrade our department and our people. become the verbs: accelerate business, mobilize information, advance human capability. And my final slide, and I know you've borne with it a long time, I love to ask people, what's the best year of your life? And they love to say, the year I left home, the year I graduated from college, the year I got married, the year I had a child. One of my friends said recently, the year I got divorced. I believe the best year of your life is always the next 12 months. It's always the next 12 months. I love the work that Mindsight does because it pushes learning. And I hope that the next 12 months will be the best. So ask me questions. You can get a copy of the slides. Here's a post, and you can ask, and you'll get a copy directly. These are a little earlier in the logic. Amanda will send them. Ask your questions. Visit my site on LinkedIn. I'll respond. But my best is the best is yet ahead. With that, I thank you. I thank you. I thank you for your patience. Have a great evening wherever you are. Thank you.